started in Sukhasana, easy seated pose. So, however you're comfortable being seated, we'll just take a moment to arrive and settle in. So, just take some time here to really feel into the base of your spine and your sit bones on the earth. See if you can find some evenness between the hips. Take a breath in through the nose, a cleansing breath in, and an exhale, sighing out through the mouth. Again, in through the nose. And exhale, releasing. Let the shoulders drop down away from the ears. Let the jaw relax. Just begin to scan through the body and just notice how you feel as you arrive in your practice today. Noticing any tension or tightness, as well as any places of ease in the body. Letting the breath flow naturally. Today, we continue our practice of meeting our anger, or meeting the emotion of anger as a messenger, and meeting that with awareness instead of reactivity or letting it consume us. And anger is a valid emotion, but it's not who we are. It often arises when a boundary or a need or expectation, maybe a boundary was crossed or needs aren't being met in some way. And that's often when this emotion arises. So, noticing in the body, just using this practice today to be aware of sensations as they arise in the body and we move through our practice. What might be lurking there in the corners, what might be kind of stuck there. Sometimes this anger, we tend to push it aside instead of honoring it and really exploring it, just shoving it down. So maybe it's stuck somewhere in the body. And if that's true for you, that's okay. It's perfectly normal and a part of this experience. So just using the breath today to invite any of those spaces that may be holding on to anger to soften and to release. When we come into our twisting postures, thinking about empowering ourselves by learning to meet our anger with awareness and to make a choice after we've created some space to reflect and how we respond from that emotion. We'll be using a mantra today. It's one of the Reiki principles that we're including in our practices in the 5-month cycle. And that mantra for this month is just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will not be angry. And the practice here is just to notice how that lands for us. If we have some resistance to it, or maybe we're thinking we aren't angry, and just to notice how your relationship to this mantra and to the affirmation we'll be using shifts during your practice or as you bring it into your life off the mat. So if there's something maybe that you are upset or angry about today, or that you've been carrying with you, maybe setting an intention to explore this, to release it. It's not something that you need to hold on to anymore. And we'll begin with butterfly, just bringing the soles of the feet together and letting the knees fall open. You can place blocks under the legs if that's helpful to you. If there's a lot of space here, sometimes placing blocks can help with feeling like we're a little more supported, feeling a little more comfort, finding length in your spine, reaching the crown, rolling the shoulders down away from the ears, and just creating some space here in the neck, in the heart space. Taking a couple of breaths, notice how this posture feels as you begin to open up the hips, where those sensations are arising. Are you feeling it on the inner thighs or the outside of the hips, or maybe the lower back? And in our yin practice, we want to meet these sensations with kindness and notice that they're there. And if they aren't causing us pain, see if we can use the space of stillness and these longer holds to really just allow and surrender sometimes those uncomfortable feelings to be there, but to ultimately make choices that are right for your body. We don't want to be pushing or pulling ourselves into a position that doesn't feel good to our bodies today in our practice. It may be different next time or last time you practice. So, as we move towards another option for this practice of walking the hands out and letting the spine round, notice how the sensation changes in the body. There may be a little more of a pull in the lower back or in the thighs. Wherever that engagement begins, just pausing there without moving forward, maybe even taking a little walk back and finding what's the most comfortable space to find stillness in. So arriving wherever you'd like to be here. As the shoulders round, just inviting any tension, any tightness in our shoulders, just roll down the back, be released. next breath, if you haven't come up already, coming all the way up and just bringing the legs out long, maybe shaking them out a little bit, or you could bend the knees, windshield wiper motions, releasing the hips a little. And then we'll come into deer pose. So it's kind of a zigzag shape with the legs. We'll bring the right shin somewhat towards the top of the mat, and the left shin somewhat towards the side. So wherever your hips land here, just trying to find some sense of evenness and stability here, using props as needed. If you need a prop block underneath this top knee, you can, or if you'd like to bring your blanket underneath this back hip for a little more support, just finding evenness here. And then as we lengthen the spine, we'll be walking the hands out in front. And now you can stay up here on the palms, or you could maybe bring your bolster to the mat and come to the forearms. However you are, we just want to be kind of surrendering over this right leg. So we're feeling into this internal rotation of the left leg. So maybe feeling that in the outside of the left hip. Maybe you're feeling that on the outside of the right hip. And just noticing where those sensations are. Each exhale, just inviting the hips to soften here. Any of that tightness, just dissipate. Our hips and our shoulders are where unprocessed anger often gets stuck, in our root chakra, where we are thinking about how we feel safe. Maybe that's a boundary that's been crossed. And so if we have some feeling of not feeling safe in a situation because of a boundary being crossed, or not feeling like a need is being met, those emotions can get stuck here in the shoulders, connected to our heart space. Feelings of hurt and pain are all part of anger as well as grief. So that can be a place that often holds a lot of tightness, which can be a lot of that unprocessed energy just kind of sticking there in those joints. And breathing into these spaces, maybe bowing the head down, releasing the back of the neck, finding stillness in the hips, but feel free to maybe feel into a little neck stretch, just kind of stretching side to side or rolling the neck a little. Just feel into any sticky spots here. Walk the hands back, all the way up. And we'll just take that windshield wiper motion with the knees, back and forth, nice and slow, before moving to the opposite side. So you can just flip around to the other side of your mat if you want. I'm going to stay this direction so that it's not facing away from you. So your left shin will be parallel to probably the back. So you're flipped around like me, so towards the front side of the mat, and then the right shin on the side. And so we're just taking that same posture of just lengthening the spine and drawing the shoulders back, heart space open, noticing if we need any props here to support us. Taking a couple of breaths, checking in with our body. And then if you'd like to walk the hands out or come to the forearms, surrendering down towards the earth. We'll begin to incorporate our mantra here. Just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will not be angry. Seeing how that lands, how it lands in the heart. Anger doesn't have to be something that, a big outburst. Maybe it's just something that irritated you throughout your day or your week. And just noticing that little spark of irritation or anger. And walking the hands back on the inhale. Moving your prop to the side. And bring the legs out long in front. We'll prepare for a caterpillar. You want your sit bones in contact with the earth, May need to move some fleshy bits out of the way. And then lengthening the spine and really flexing the toes towards the body, and just notice how that little engagement may kind of light up those muscles in the back side of the legs. Placing the hands on the tops of the thighs. Think about lifting the heart space to draw the shoulder blades together, growing a little taller on the inhale, rooting down and grounding on the exhale. And just pause here and follow the flow of breath from the base of your spine to the crown of your head. Follow the breath. Rising up on the inhale, meeting the crown. Releasing on the exhale, down to the base, down to your root. And the breath is an amazing tool that gives us space to pause, creates a space between the stimulus, whatever's activating this reaction in our bodies, in our minds, and how we are feeling the emotion, and creating a place for us to respond with care and intentionality rather than reaction. Always checking in with the breath, a good gauge as to where we are energetically. You can stay here if you'd like to walk the hands out, keeping the spine straight until you feel a little more engagement. You begin to kind of feel like, oh, this is the edge of where I can be. And then rounding the spine and tucking the chin towards the chest. You can also bring your block to the top of your legs here to support the forehead if you'd like, in some variation. However you stack them, it's a different height. You feel like you want a little more support here. Or you can just let the crown sink towards the earth. Just let gravity kind of draw you in. There's not a lot of pulling here. Really just surrendering, keeping that activation in the legs by drawing the toes towards the body gently. Doesn't have to be a hard pull, just somewhere in the middle-ish where you feel that activation. This really is activating our entire posterior chain of energy, that line of energy from the crown of our head all the way down our back to our hips and down our legs. So as you breathe here, thinking about breathing from the crown of your head, now extending that down past the base of your spine to the soles of your feet, and following that flow of breath. On your inhale, walk the hands back. Bring the head up left. Roll the shoulders back. And just take a couple of breaths here, maybe pointing and flexing the toes, maybe taking some full circles with the ankles. And then we'll meet in tabletop. So if you'd like to, you can bring your blanket for a little support on the knees or under the knees, I should say. In tabletop, our knees are stacked under the hips, wrists stacked under the shoulders. Tops of the feet are pressed into the mat, palms pressed into the mat, fingertips wide. And just take a couple of breaths here, checking in with the evenness of the hips and your alignment and finding what works for you. And then on the inhale, dropping the belly, gaze comes forward and the tailbone rises. And on the exhale, pressing through the palms, rounding and broadening the shoulders, tuck the tailbone, gaze comes towards the navel. Inhale, dropping the belly into cow. Heart center comes forward. Gaze comes maybe a little higher as the tailbone rises. Exhale, rounding again into cat. Drawing your gaze towards your navel. Tailbone draws down towards the earth. And just begin to move through these at your own pace. Kind of feeling into the edges and the corners of your body. Using this next minute or so to just feel into the shoulders, the hips, maybe the neck. Just check in with your breath. Maybe this is the most movement you've done all day. Maybe it feels good to just create some space and flexibility in our spine. Release the tension from our shoulders or from the hips. On your next breath, just coming back into a neutral tabletop. Bring the big toes together, knees towards the edges of the mat. We'll walk the hands back, sinking the hips down towards the heels. You may want to have a bolster here or a little cushion or support to bring the earth closer to you. You can kind of stack your block. We're just going to do a wide-legged child's pose, so the bolster is not necessary, but it's nice if you want more of a restorative hold here. So we'll walk the hands out, keeping the hips sinking down, and then just coming to the bolster or bringing the heart space towards the mat, making any adjustments that you need. You can also bring the knees in a little bit if you're feeling any pain in the lower back. And then taking a couple of deep belly breaths here, just creating some space and softness in the belly. See if you can let the shoulders broaden a little. Maybe the heart center comes through. opening the heart to the earth, really setting the intention here to release anything. If you set that intention at the beginning of your practice, to let go of something maybe that you're angry about or upset about, just releasing that to the earth. Walk the hands back, coming all the way up, releasing any props to the side. And we'll come all the way down to our bellies on the mat, bringing the legs out long and finding Sphinx pose, elbows under the shoulder, forearms pressed into the mat. You can also bring the forearms out towards the edges of the mat. This lessens the load on the lower back. So if you have any lower back sensitivity, bringing the arms further out, or even just at any point, bringing them to the top of the mat and just resting your forehead is okay as well. Making the choice that is good to take care of your spine here. So we'll draw the shoulder blades together, opening the front side of the heart space, letting go of any tension that we might be holding in the glutes or in the legs, just letting them rest here. Pressing through the forearms like we're rising up from the earth. And the gaze can come between your hands, or you can have it forward, maybe a little towards the sky, lifting the chin, or you can let the crown of your head reach towards the earth, whatever feels right to you. Taking a couple breaths, just notice how it is to breathe here with your belly pressed against the mat, how it might be difficult to create space and to expand as you take in air. Sometimes this might be how it feels when we meet our anger. It's maybe a shortening of our breath. It's hard to breathe. hard to take in oxygen and create space. Just noticing how that feels. Allow the weight of the body resting here, pressing against the mat, to really be your friend in softening this area. Instead of thinking about the resistance, maybe thinking about opening and softening into it, focusing on the exhale instead of the inhale, finding perspective. Both things are true. It's easy to exhale, and it's difficult to inhale, or more challenging to inhale. Just how you look at it, but it's all the breath. And exhale, lowering all the way down if you haven't already. And just taking a couple of breaths and then moving on to your back whenever you're ready to make that move. Maybe just rolling to one side and then coming all the way around. And we'll just start with the knees bent, feet hip distance apart. Maybe just take a couple of windshield wiper motions with the knees, just kind of rocking the hips here. So a little massage on the lower back. And then we'll bring the knees back through center. Press through the soles of your feet and lift the hips up slightly, shifting them to the left. Draw the knees in a little and let them drop to the right. So you're coming into the supine twist, bringing the arms out to a T. You can make any adjustments that you need to have your hips somewhat stacked. You want to place a blanket between the knees or a block. Sometimes that's helpful. Drawing the knees in towards the heart space. That sometimes feels good. And trying to really draw that left shoulder down towards the mat. If it's up off the mat, that's okay. But just trying to set that intention to each exhale, just drop the shoulder down, even just in our mind, just thinking about that energy dropping down, bringing our gaze towards our left fingertips, or just tilting the head slightly in that direction towards the left shoulder. And again, in these twists, we're really thinking about our ability to alchemize anger, to transform our emotions, to take positive action after we've created some space, reflected. And sometimes that might be setting a boundary, might be just letting it go, moving on. On your next exhale, draw the knees back through center. Shift the hips back through center, bringing the hips and the shoulders in alignment. Draw the knees in towards the body. And just grabbing on wherever you can, taking a little rock side to side, massaging the sacrum, the lower back. Any movement that feels good here. Maybe you want to lengthen the legs and take a big stretch. That's okay too. And then we'll move into the opposite side. So we'll bring the knees bent, feet hip distance apart, pressing through the soles of the feet. We'll lift the hips and shift them over to the right this time. And draw the knees in a little and bring them over to the left. Making any adjustments that you need here. Kind of stack the hips as much as you can where it feels comfortable. Again, you might want to place a block between the knees. That might be beneficial. And then drawing that right shoulder down, bring the arms out to a T. Maybe bringing the gaze over the right fingertip. We'll bring our affirmation for this practice in. I release anger with compassion. I am at peace in the present moment. I release anger with compassion. I am at peace in the present moment. And the affirmation and the mantra is something you can take with you off the mat when you find yourself meeting activation, maybe anger is bubbling within you, coming back to this mantra of just for today, I will not be angry, or coming into a repetition of the affirmation, releasing anger with compassion, at peace in the present moment, finding the breath, creating space, really honoring our emotions and finding power in meeting them with awareness. You can't always and likely won't be able to control the external circumstances of whatever's happening. But we do have some control over how we respond and how we engage. And that's where we find empowerment. That's where we find our strength. In your next breath, unwinding and coming back through center. And taking any final movement here that feels good before finding your Shavasana. You can have your legs out long, the traditional Shavasana, or maybe the knees are bent. You could even take that butterfly posture, bringing the soles of the feet together and letting the knees fall open. Lots of options here. Just taking up some space on your mat. Finding where you'd like to rest. And taking a couple of cleansing breaths in through the nose. Exhaling, sighing it out. Maybe with some sound. Inhaling through the nose. Exhale, sighing it out. And then just let it go. Let go of any control of the breath. Let go of any judgment or thoughts about anything that did or didn't happen as expected today, just allow the body to rest for these next few minutes, just giving space for you to integrate all of the work that you've done today. Let your mind wander a little bit. It wanders. Maybe daydream. This is your space. And begin to deepen the breath and create gentle movement in the fingers and toes, wrists and ankles. Maybe take a big stretch, arms up overhead, lengthening, reaching through the toes. And whatever way is intuitive to you, making your way to a seated position. And just bringing my hands to the heart space in some way, either hands on the heart space or in prayer pose. And just taking a moment of gratitude here for yourself for finding the time on this sleepy Sunday to come into this practice, to meet your mat, to meet all of the layers of you, and to move through this practice, grateful for bodies that can move in any way whatsoever. Grateful for people to practice with and a beautiful space to practice in. May you walk in loving kindness. May you share your unique gifts with the world. And may you remember your true essence is love. Thank you. Thank you.